If you have your Bibles, and I hope you do, take those out. Continue in our series, Relationship Rehab, looking at the relationships in our lives and how to restore health. If there's been an injury, if there's been harsh words that have been spoken, whatever it might be, allowing God to pour in His principles into our life and restoring health. Today we're going to look at three passages, three stories in the life of Christ and take some words there to apply to our relationships. In the week leading up to Christ's suffering, His Passion Week, he and his crew, he and his followers were making their way up to the city of Jerusalem. They were about to head into the lion's den. They were heading back to the place where those people who hated him, who wanted to see him out of the picture, those religious leaders, they wanted to see him gone. They plotted, they looked for ways to get rid of him. And in these coming days leading up to his Passion Week, eventually at the end of that week where he goes to the cross, gives up his life for us. He's walking with his crew. I'm going to start today in Mark chapter 10. And we're going to look at a passage from verse 32 to 45. As they're walking along, many of us have walked together as a group before with other people. And typically when you're walking with a group, you all walk together. It's a crowd, it's a group that's walking together. But on this particular story, Mark chapter 10, verses 32 to 45, Jesus is out in front. He's out in front of them, ahead of the crowd. And in this story, it tells us that the crowd that was following was amazed at this guy. They've been watching him heal people. They've been watching all kinds of things that he's been doing, his teaching. They're amazed. But there's another thing that it says about this crowd. It says that they were fearful. As they approach, now this is Joel's world, this is my imagination. I don't know whether he could see the city walls from where this story is being told. I don't know. Next summer, there's a group of about 20 people from our church that's going to Israel. I would love to know and love to stand in the place where this story is told. I'm sure that somebody has found a spot that says, traditionally, this is where the story out of Mark chapter 10 was told. So I'd love to stand on that little road where Jesus is walking in front of his crowd, his crew, and they were afraid because they knew what was in front of them. And you can imagine this because they know how hated Jesus is in this town where he's going. So he stops and he calls his 12 to him. Huddle up. Y'all come on in here. I got to talk to you for a second. He pulls them in and he goes, all right, guys, here's the deal. Here's what's about to happen. Here's the play. Now, you ready? Everybody listen. We're going to go into Jerusalem. When we get there, the Son of Man is going to be put on trial. If you want to call it a trial, it's not going to really be a trial, but they're going to arrest the Son of Man, me. They're going to do some kind of trial, and they're going to sentence the Son of Man to death. Got that? Can you see his guys huddled up around him? They're going to sentence me to death. They're going to turn me over to the Romans. And after they flog me and beat me and spit on me and do all kinds of junk, they're going to kill me. On one. Ready, break. Now, can you see the faces of the guys that were leaned in, listening to Jesus? What? What? Yeah, that's the play. On one. Ready? So they keep walking. Back at that time, two of the disciples, James and John, man, these two are in the inner circle with Jesus. They sneak up beside Jesus and they, hey, Jesus, we want you to do us a favor. And we want you to do whatever we ask of you. He goes, all right, well, okay, what are you asking? Hey, you've been talking about your kingdom and all this stuff. When you get there into glory, can we sit on your right hand and on your left hand? I mean, come on, man, we want to sit next to you. And Jesus says, hey, can you drink the cup that I'm about to drink? Can you be baptized in what I'm about to be baptized in? And they look at him and go, yeah, we can. We can do it. We're all in. And Jesus says, sure enough, you will drink the cup. And you will be baptized. But for you to sit on my right hand or my left hand, that's not for me to decide. Now here's what happened. The other 10, word got to them what they had just asked Jesus. And their response was like what our response probably would have been. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to ask him if you could sit in the places of honor? You think you're something special? Who are you? Jesus says, time out. Everybody huddle back up. Huddle up. Come here. And I want you to look. I want you to look at what he says, starting in verse 42 of this passage. Jesus called them to him, and he said to them, you know, those who are considered rulers of the Gentiles, they lord it over them. And the great ones exercise authority over them. Well, you guys have seen it. You've seen it when the religious leaders, they walk around all proud of themselves. And the Romans. I mean, you've seen the centurions. You've seen the magistrates. You've seen the big dogs. They lord it over the people, and they use their thumb of authority over the people. You've seen that. But that ain't the way it's going to be with you. That ain't the way it's going to be with my followers. And look at what he says. Verse 43. But it shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant. And whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. We're talking about relationships. See, James and John, they came to him. We shouldn't be surprised that they're asked, because we would have asked probably the same thing. We love to be great, don't we? I'm guessing that there's not a person here, there's not a person listening online that woke up this morning or will wake up tomorrow morning before work and go, you know what? I think today I'm going to aim high for mediocre. I'm going to go to work today and I'll tell you what, I'm going to be average today. No, we want to be great. We want to be good at what we do. We want to be good students, right? This means yes, your parents are watching right now. We want to be good at work. Well, we don't want to be just good. We want to be great. I want to be a great husband. We want to be great spouses. We want to be great parents. We take all the information in that we can in order to be great at things. James and John said, man, we want to be great. We want to sit next to you. Being great is a need that we have. I don't think we should be surprised at their request. But see, in this passage, Jesus redefines what greatness is all about. You know, I want to be a great pastor. One of the things that I have realized and I live by is that for me to be my best, I have to help you be your best. In order for me to be the best pastor that I can be, I have to help you be the best follower of Christ that you can be. Some of you are aware that I have been going to Orange Theory Fitness lately, and my coach, he's mean to me. Did I just hear somebody go, aw? I was hoping for a little more sympathy than that. And I was hoping William would be here today so I could rag on him in front of all y'all. But you know what he does? In fact, it happened just the other day. We're doing interval training, and I'm on the treadmill, and he's going up and down the treadmills, and come on, a new level. I want you to push harder. I want you to push harder. And let's start this next push pace in 3, 2, 1. And so I'm hitting the button on the treadmill, and you understand what I'm saying. I'm hitting the button on the treadmill up to the speed that I wanted to go to, and I accidentally hit it one time too many. See, I was going to 3.9, but when I hit it that extra time, it went to 4.0, and William was standing right there, and he said, come on, Pastor Jay, I saw 4.0. You could keep it there. And I was like, and so I kept it on, and he pushed me, and he pushed me. Listen, church, today, I got to tell you, is going to be one of those days that if you want to be great in your relationships, I want to push you a little bit. And if you want to be great in your marriage, if you want to be great in your friendships, those friendships at school in the hallway, it ain't about how much you can look better than people. Here's me, here's you. Can you see the difference? Here's me, here's you. That ain't it at all. If you want to be great in your friendships, then serve. Serve other people. See, Jesus redefined this whole issue of greatness. So what about our need to be great? I want you to notice this. It's on your outline. There is a direct connection with our desire to be great and our decision to humbly serve. We have this desire within us. But folks, it's going to make a decision. Just like he saw that 4.0, and I could have made the decision to go back down to 3.9. But I made the decision to be pushed a little bit. So be thinking. Be thinking about your friendships. Be thinking about your marriage, your dating relationship, your neighbors. You want to be great in those relationships? Then let's take on the heart of a servant to serve those people. I have to admit, I'm not great at this. This is a push pace for me. And I'm talking about my marriage relationship, serving. Men, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Or maybe the wives will understand this a little better. See, Catherine's great, man. She's a full-time worker, teacher, full-time student. She comes home and she does things around the house that so much for me and for my family. And then every once in a while, I'll empty the dishwasher. And what do? I make it a point to let her know that I've emptied the dishwasher. Will you please notice how great I am? When over and over. Are there any wives that can relate to that? Just one in the room. Okay. All right, two. Okay. See, every day we have a decision that we can make. Every day. A little test. It's kind of a self-test. Before we put our feet on the floor. Here it is. It's right here on this slide. Every day we have a simple test that we can face. Which box will you check? Will you check, I will exalt myself, or I will humbly serve? What box did you check today? What about tomorrow with that coworker? I will exalt myself, or I'll humbly serve that person. I'll humble my heart. Now listen, we're not talking about behavior modification. Anybody can put on a show. You know Jesus. He's not worried about outward expression. He's worried about what? Content of our heart. And that adjective, humbly, is an important word. Will you serve those people that you're in relationship with? Which box will you check? Jesus said, if you want to be great, then you serve others. The greatest among you, he says, will be your servant. And those who will be first will be your slave. Folks, that is a heart posture. And I want to push you today. In whatever relationship you're thinking about today, to put on the heart of a servant. For even the Son of Man, Jesus, didn't come to be served. He didn't say, here's me, here's you. See the difference? No. He said, man, I want to serve you. I want to serve you and give my life for many. Oh, I want to push you today, and I'm not apologizing for doing so. Our world is so self-centered, and I honestly buy into it sometimes. I think that all of us feel the pressure of the world to think of me first, and Jesus redefines it and says, no. The greatest among you will serve others. So I want to push you today. Serve. I want to turn next to Matthew chapter 23. It's a very similar place. This story happens sometime in the next week during his Passion Week. So they've made their way into Jerusalem. The triumphal entry has happened. And somewhere in that week, we get this story that we're about to look. It's the same message. Matthew 23, verses 1 through 12. He begins talking about the religious leaders. He says, hey, listen, they sit in the seat of Moses, so you listen to what they say, but don't do what they do. They talk a good game, but they don't live a good game. They put burdens on you that they would never intend to carry themselves. In fact, these religious leaders, here's what they do. They tie their phylacteries around their forehead. What's a phylactery? It was a box. And you talk about a fashion statement. These guys would take a box that would hold their memory verses and other passages of Scripture, and they would put it up against their forehead and take the rope, and they would tie it. And they'd have this big old giant box on the front of their forehead. And some of them would use bigger boxes, and people in the streets would go, wow, man, look how spiritual they are. I am so impressed with them. Excuse me. When there's a banquet, these religious leaders, they love to sit in the seat of honor. Kind of like what James and John asked for. These religious leaders love sitting there. In fact, when they're in the street and they're wearing their phylacteries and they're walking around with their long robes, they love for the people in the streets to come up to them and call them rabbi and teacher. They love that. They love being noticed. Here's the problem. These symbols of pride had taken a place in their heart that doesn't belong there. Now, are we that different? I've never seen any of you tie a box to your front of your forehead. But do we wear some clothes that we only wear because they have a symbol on them, a brand name on them? I mean, there's even people that wear like Kansas City Chiefs jerseys and stuff. Or Oakland Raiders stuff. I mean, yeah, that's right, I said it. What are you going to do? I mean, are there some cars that we only drive because it's that brand? Are we that different? 11 real quick and see what he says. Here it is again. The greatest among you shall be your servant. Look at verse 12. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Here's the deal. God says, man, because we all love to be great, but we also love to be noticed. Don't we? I mean, I'm hoping that somebody noticed my new shoes today. I'm kind of proud of them. Did you notice them? We love to be noticed. I love it. And if she doesn't notice that I emptied the dishwasher, I'm going to make sure she noticed it. We love to be noticed. And Jesus says, no, your heart is in the wrong place. You want to be great in your relationships? You serve. Oh, and by the way, if you're going to lift up yourself, Joel, every time you empty the dishwasher and you got to bring it up so you can be noticed, hey, if you're going to exalt yourself, the day's coming where you'll be humbled. Joel, let me tell you a much better approach. In fact, let me push you a little bit, Joel. Stop exalting yourself, Joel, when you empty the dishwasher, and allow God to be the one to notice. Allow God to be the one to exalt you. Oh, I'm not afraid to push us, push all of us. And on purpose, I'm not saying push you because, guys, this is a real one for me. We want to be great in our relationships. So what do we do about our need to be noticed? I've said this before, but I believe we live in a generation that is addicted to likes. Oh. On Facebook, we'll post something. How often do you go back and see how many people have liked it? I just think our culture is screaming at us over and over and over. Post the best picture you can think of yourself that you can. Don't really show them what reality's like, but show them the best things about you, and then go back often and look and see how many people have liked it, and turn our attention to the needs of others. Start noticing other people's needs. But it's going beyond just noticing it and acting upon it. How can you meet a need of your spouse today? Don't just notice it. Act upon it. What about your friend at work? And maybe there's been an injury in that friendship. But you've noticed a need. How could you meet that need this week? But now I want to focus in. I want to push you a little bit in your relationships, your friendships, your marriage. How about your children? How about your parents? How we serve them. We humbly serve them. We've been looking at, see the difference, God? Here's me, here's them. God, I thank you that I'm not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I get. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift up his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, let that be a sign for any of us that might be slipping into this do-it-yourself religion with God, confidence in yourself. The second marker is this: you become condemning or critical of others. I'm glad I'm not. And we don't trust in our own ability, but we understand that our righteousness comes from one source. And his name is what? Say it, Jesus. Instead of turning a critical eye to other people, we turn an eye that tries to notice their needs, and we act upon it. And we don't settle for contentment. Or what if my spouse, what if my boyfriend or girlfriend, what if they don't reciprocate this action that I'm doing, this humility, this posture of my heart? What if they don't turn around and do it back to me? Friends, listen. That's not your worry. Our worry is to obey the Word of God. And even if one of us in our relationships, even if one of us will apply the principles of Jesus to a relationship, our relationship, Lord, I have fallen so short on this. Will you allow God just to have the last word here? And if he's got something for you, listen. Listen. Father, in these moments alone with you, I pray that you would penetrate to the deepest places of our heart. Lord, I pray that you would crumble any pride, any calluses that have been built up in our hearts that keep us from being humble servants. Lord, it might be that we need a word of encouragement from you this morning. A word that reminds us that you'll never leave us, that you are our rock, you are our salvation, that what we're facing might be impossible with it. If we confess our sin, you're faithful to forgive and cleanse us of all unrighteousness. Today, Lord, may we do just that. If you're down here in the front. Whatever God's doing, let's do business with him. So let's stand and let's worship together.